I guess I was a little early suggesting that I'd done my final thing on the Natalie Cochran case. I have one more thing to say. Hi, folks. Tony DeWitt again with another video on the law. Remember, I don't dispense legal advice here, and this is what we're talking about today. A lawyer goes through 3 years of law school, getting good information about the law in all kinds of different areas. But one of the areas that is especially drilled down is the criminal law. Both the substantive criminal law, for example, you take a course on taxation, as well as what to do once you get into court with a criminal case, criminal procedure, that sort of thing. In addition to that, you have courses on legal ethics, the responsibilities that a lawyer has to protect his client's interests. A lawyer has a duty to protect his client's interests. And it's phrased that way because people come to lawyers with all kinds of different problems. How do I get out of this lease? How do I protect myself from a bad tenant? What can I do about this neighbor that's encroaching on my property? And those kinds of interests are indeed important to protect, but probably the single most important interest to protect of a client is their freedom. And that's especially true when somebody is on trial for something like murder, as Natalie Cochran was. The legal system is not perfect. There are people convicted every day who are factually innocent. We know that because every time I see that happen, I talk about it on this channel. And I think it's important for people to know. As a result of that, it's really important for a lawyer to do the best job that he can for his client. Now, Natalie Cochran's case, I think there was a small chance that if she had been adequately represented and information had been presented in a way that was easy for jurors to consume, and they had gotten some much better experts than they had, that she might have been able to avoid going to prison for the rest of her life with no chance of parole. But as it is, she is very clearly going to prison for life without any chance of parole. In addition to protecting her interests as a client, the lawyer also had to assume some responsibility for her children. Her children loved her very much. They didn't want to see her go to prison for the rest of her life. They wanted to have some amount of time to spend with her in a manner that wasn't in a locked down, gray, ugly prison visiting area. But that's not going to happen now. Initially, and indeed, if she was guilty, she definitely deserved to go to prison for the rest of her life. The problem that I have now is that the prosecutor revealed that she was offered a plea bargain. See, people make dumb decisions all the time, and it's not the lawyer's fault when somebody makes a dumb decision. Going to trial in this case was a dumb decision because essentially the state had enough evidence to convict. There was at least an 80% chance that they were going to get a conviction on day one. And the reason that I think this is so important and the reason why I'm talking about it now is because you have to think of what's best for the client. They can swear on a stack of Bibles that they did not do any harm in this case, but the factual evidence belied that. She left him without getting medical treatment for over 6 hours. And whether she injected him with insulin or not, or whether it was some kind of, reaction to a bodybuilding substance, which nobody believes, the fact is she left him there without getting medical attention. At the very least, that's negligent homicide given her medical background. As a pharmacist, she knew exactly what could be going on here. They get pathophysiology in their education too. In that regard, I think it's really important for them to consider the plea deal. Now, the plea deal apparently fell apart with her in terms of how much time she would have to serve. The place where things seem to break down is the way that good time credit or other credit would be calculated and the date from which it would be calculated. On one offer, she would have had a chance for parole starting from May of 2021 when she went to federal prison. In other words, all of the time that she's going to serve in federal prison would have been counted against the, I think it's 15 years, sometimes longer, that would have determined whether or not she would ever get out of prison. So if she started in May of 2021 and she had 15 years to go, by 2036, she would be eligible for parole. And she wouldn't exactly be a spring chicken then, but she also wouldn't be dead. The other offer essentially started from when she went to the West Virginia Bureau of Prisons, and that one was up to the judge's discretion, which was probably a little more of a dicey proposition. But she didn't take either one of them. It's my belief that the lawyers in this case should have presented the options very starkly, but the rules do require them to abide by the client's decision about whether to take a plea deal. And here is what Rule 1.2 of the West Virginia Rules of Professional Conduct say about the scope of representation and the allocation of authority between client and lawyer. A lawyer shall abide by a client's decision whether to settle a matter. In a criminal case, the lawyer shall abide by the client's decision after consultation as to whether the plea to be entered and whether to waive jury trial and whether the client will testify. So as you can see, there is a big decision to be made, but the client gets the advice of the lawyer, but the client is solely responsible for taking that advice and making the decision, and the lawyer has to abide by whatever decision they make. So I want to make clear, I'm not criticizing the lawyers here about the outcome or about her decision. I suppose if I absolutely knew that I was innocent, I would pursue that through a trial. I don't think she was under any illusions as to her innocence. I don't understand what drove her to make this decision other than either she got bad advice from her lawyers telling her, hey, yeah, we can beat this, or she assumed that their ability to put up a defense would be greater than it was. Either way, she made a very bad decision, and either she got bad advice or the lawyers didn't make it clear to her what the consequences were of going to trial. If I had been in the position of advising her, and thank God that I was not, I would have told her, look, you can do this amount of time, and it is then a sure thing, and you know when you're going to get out, and you can structure the rest of your life to achieve some kind of peace. But if you don't take this plea deal, I want you to know that I am going to withdraw, and I'm going to ask the court to put new lawyers in here for you who are going to take this case to trial, because I don't believe you can prevail at trial. That's what I would have done. Does that mean that what they did was wrong? What the lawyers that represented her did was wrong? No. If they abided by her decision to go to trial in spite of their good advice to take the plea deal, then it's on her, and that's all there is to it. And so I want to be clear. I'm not suggesting that the lawyers made an error here. I'm saying they were in a very tough situation from an ethical point of view because they have to abide by her decision. They had a long history with her representing her in this case, getting it ready to trial. I'm sure they would have engendered a great deal of anger from the judge if they said, hey, she's not taking our advice, and as a result, we're withdrawing. But that's probably what I would have done in that situation. That they didn't do it, again, is not a mark on them. That she didn't take the plea deal is clearly a problem for her. I'd really be interested in your thoughts about this, and I do want to share one additional thing because I know y'all don't read all of the comments. One of the people who was apparently in the courtroom saw the lead attorney make an inappropriate gesture with his middle finger. That would have been inappropriate under any set of circumstances, and clearly the judge didn't see that. His co-counsel apparently did see him do that, and apparently it was his sayonara to the jury as they were leaving. If indeed that happened, and I have no reason to doubt that it did, in my opinion, that was unprofessional conduct. And I think if the bar were actually made aware of that, they would probably take action. You don't do that. Even when jurors have made bad decisions in my cases, I don't hate on the jurors. I wonder what I could have done better. And so blaming the jurors, even though that's a natural tendency, if you stop and take a step back and evaluate it in terms of the choices that you made during the trial, you usually find that there were things that you could have done better or things that you missed. I know that's true in my case. Maybe it's not true in their case. I don't know. But if indeed that happened, and I don't have confirmation of that fact, but one of the people who commented on my channel said that, and I don't disbelieve her, I think that's a huge problem. It's really sad as a lawyer to have to report on things like this because I know what I would have done in that situation, and it wouldn't have been that. I would have gone back to my office and sat down, and I would have replayed the whole trial in my head and wondered what I could have done differently. And of course, I would of course be prepared to file a motion for a new trial, lay out any errors that I thought the judge made. She's going to get a chance at some point to blame her lawyers for her incarceration. It's called an ineffective assistance of counsel claim. And she may very well have good grounds for that. I don't know. We'll have to see. That's now, I'm pretty sure that's my final word on Natalie Cochran. It was an interesting trial to cover, and I want to thank everybody who commented on it because your comments were very helpful to me. Sometimes when I do a video, people will attack me and they'll say bad things to me, and I generally ignore that. But when you all tell me that this helps and that it helps your understanding and that you've gotten something out of the video, that really tells me that that's the kind of video that I need to make more of. So that's what I'm going to continue to try to do. And again, I just wanted to thank you. The channel has grown significantly over the course of the last couple of trials, and I try to be choosy about what I present. I don't just throw out the same thing over and over. I just wanted to say thank you and keep up the great comments. I very much appreciate them. That's what I have for you today. Thank you for watching my video. Thanks for watching my video. If you have a request for me to cover a topic, please send me an email to the address above, and in the subject line put video request. If you have comments, drop them in the comments down below. If you found the content worthy, please consider subscribing. Since I started doing this work, I have always asked listeners to consider doing just one kind thing every day to make somebody else smile or make their life better in some way. Please consider doing that. It makes the world a better place. Now, YouTube has some suggestions for other videos of mine you may find interesting.